Hello everyone and welcome to the next video in my Let's Relive series. Today I'm going to relive Freedom Fighters. Now I originally played this on the original Xbox. I was going to say the Xbox One there, but it's kind of get confusing. It's just the original Xbox. And but for today's video I'm going to be playing the PC version. Now there's no difference really in the versions, certainly not in the box art anyway, but the reason I'm going to be playing the PC version is really just for better quality. Like I can record better quality on my PC compared to the Xbox, and plus my Xbox is kind of set away for the minute. I haven't got it set up and I just can't be bothered to set up. It's just much easier for me to pop the PC version in and play and record on that. On the back of the box it says, "They took your freedom, it's time to take it back." And there are a few bullet points. A revolutionary recruit and command system that lets you lead up to 12 freedom fighters into the battle. And another one that's actually probably the most important, but it's right at the bottom, that says, "Interconnected missions means that the war waged in one level affects the battle in another." And we'll talk a little bit about that once I start playing the game. On the front of the box it says that it's from the makers of Hitman 2. And I actually was watching back the footage and I noticed a little Easter egg to Hitman. And we find this poster, which is clearly Agent 47 and possibly Diana, who gives him his missions in the game. So let's get on to what it's like to actually play the game. The game starts out with you on your way to your job as a plumber. You play as Chris Stone and you work with your brother Troy Stone. All the way in the van journey, Troy's telling you how he thinks that the Russians are going to take over America, which Chris doesn't believe. It just so happens that the first call of the day is at an activist's house called Isabella Angelina. And it's about that time that the Soviet Union decide to launch a surprise invasion of New York City. So when the gameplay starts in this apartment, you'll desperately try to get to grips with the controls, because if you stand around too long the chopper will probably kill you. Once out in the hallway, all those years of plumber experience finally came in handy when you're able to smack this Soviet so hard in the face with a wrench that an exclamation mark pops out of his head, a bit like the soldiers in Metal Gear Solid. Once you've freed your fellow Americans, you befriend Mr. Jones, who becomes your guide for the level. He also becomes your second in command at your base, helping you plan the missions and giving you intel about each of the missions. But we'll get to that later. Right now this game is all about progression and character development. Progression in the weapon sense, like you slowly build up your arsenal, and you start off with a handgun that's pretty basic. It's actually really not a very good weapon, but it's also all about using your environment to your benefit. So for example, these red barrels down here can be used against your enemies, and by the way, the ragdoll effects are so fun in this game. There's also great progression in the sense of the world that you play in. New York feels like it's slowly being taken over. In the first few levels you'll see plenty of civilians running around in panic, but as the game progresses you see less and less civilians on the streets, to the point where there's pretty much no civilians on the street, but you do meet other characters on the streets later on that you can recruit. Now you'll see me heal this guy, and when you heal people sitting around where they have that little cross above their head, you get something called charisma. Now the more charisma you have, the bigger the group of people you under your command. And I think that in itself makes you want to be involved in this world and do things in it. And there is something really satisfying about slowly winning back parts of each of the levels you play on. Most of the information you get is through cutscenes in the pirate broadcasts. The Soviet Union's now broadcasting. Your other source of information is Mr. Jones. Now we come back to the sewer. This is your first base, and when you first get here there's not too much here. There's some weapons. In fact, I think the cutscene's glitched because it shows you pretty much all the weapons and it slowly takes them all away on you, because whenever you actually start off there's no weapons here. There's pretty much nothing here other than the map and a few of the people that you saved. Your first choice of mission is the police station or the post office. What I love about this is that if you choose the police station first, you can't really progress because you find a bunch of policemen pinned down by snipers. There's just no way past them, so it forces you to pick up C4 from the police officers and go back to the post office level. You navigate your way around using the sewer systems, and you can also save in the sewer systems. I love this idea of going underground and being able to access each of the levels through this sewer system. So what we do is we take our C4 over to the post office level and plant it under some fuel tankers, which is just near the billboard that we're being sniped from. Once you plant the C4, you just have to run away and watch the snipers go up in flames. And as you can see, I got some more charisma points. The yellow bar, once it's filled, I get another little circle, which means I can recruit another player, but I think as of yet I haven't been able to actually recruit anyone. This first section of the game was really just to show you that to complete parts of the game, sometimes you're better actually backtracking and taking out certain things to make it easier for you to progress, and that's what this game's all about. You'll see a lot of that coming up. In fact, almost instantly, the front of the police station is swarming with enemies. There's just far too many to take on. I tried to go in the front door, but then I realised I was actually advised to go under, I think there's a car park entrance underground, and that's an easier way, much easier way of getting into the police station. So you kind of sneak in around the back, and I love parts like this in Freedom Fighters, and it's full of them, where the front door is never usually the right option. You can usually sneak in a better way and use the sort of surprise attack, guerrilla warfare, whatever you want to call it, but the game does it perfectly. Once in the police station, you kind of have them by surprise. You're behind them and their sort of heavy guns aren't pointed to you, so all that's left for you to do is clear out the police station, make your way up to the top and fly your flag to show that it's now a safe place. You can actually see below the flag there's still lots of enemies, and it doesn't matter, they don't all need to be killed as long as you can get up there and get your flag on the pole. So once we free the police station and get talking to Isabella, she takes us to a safe house where we now are able to recruit some of our very own freedom fighters. And you can play it however you want. You can sit back like the general of the army and just tell your men to go in there and do all the fighting, or you can get involved yourself. It's really simple actually. You can just point at a location and press the button. They'll either go to that location or they'll kill the enemy that you're pointing at. And actually what you'll find you'll do most is use your men to distract the enemy, and then you can just flank them. It's actually hard to describe how satisfying it can be in this game. So now that you have a small team at your disposal, you find and save your brother and then hoist one more flag to finish the level. And really this is when the main game begins. Everything up until now was really training, and it was all quite well laid out for you just to follow instructions. When we get back to our base, we can see some tents have popped up showing that the resistance is growing stronger, and your clothes actually are starting to look a little bit more military rather than what you started out in. We even have a few weapons to choose from, and a standard template will now form where there are 3 things you need to do in each of the levels. 1, rescue prisoners. 2, blow up bridges to cut off the reinforcements to the area. And 3, destroy the helicopter landing pad so that the helicopters can't fly between the levels. There will always be one main mission. In this case it's the hotel. So essentially all you have to do is get to the hotel and fly the flag. Now that's much harder than it sounds, because if you just go there straight away you're going to have a helicopter flying around, which is really devastating. And also reinforcements will be driving around the level unless you blow up the bridge in the previous level. This is what separates Freedom Fighters from other games. It's something that you rarely see in games, and I certainly haven't seen it implemented in any other game quite as well since Freedom Fighters. And that's that what you do in certain levels affect other levels. And again, when I went back to play this, I instantly went to the hotel thinking that I could try and do that one first, and the helicopter just pinned me down and was a real problem, so it made me want to go back and actually destroy the helicopter. And also the reinforcements that would drive up and just all get out of the back of this car made the level really hard, and it made me want to try and stop that from happening. You can see here, even whenever I spend a lot of time killing the first truck, another truck pitches up, and I've got this really pesky helicopter flying about, so there wasn't much I could do here. I was pretty badly pinned. And also going back and doing those levels gets you more charisma and gets you a bigger team to help you out, which gives you another reason to do it. There are lots of fun set pieces throughout the maps as well. When I was playing, just running down these streets, I noticed that some of the enemies were running up into this building, and I thought that was pretty impressive actually, that they were programmed to do that, or how they were even able to climb up there. So I couldn't help but send my squad up in there and go up and investigate. And yeah, pretty much put my rock climbing boots on and climb up in here, and I almost get wasted, but you can see that my team come in and help me out. Now this is a really nice part this is like what I was saying before, it's a classic example of how you are supposed to flank the enemies and not always just fight them head on. So here I send my guys ahead and then I stay back and actually snipe. It's little set pieces and parts of the map that have been set up like this that really make this such a fun game to play. And it's been really nice to play with a game that has health packs instead of regenerating health where I'm just hiding behind stuff all the time. In fact, it makes the game feel really more like a strategic shooter than it is a third-person action game. If you play this like you play other action games, you'll probably die quite a lot. It's all about finding the best strategy to attack the enemy and trying your best not to just go head on all the time. So this is the level that we have to destroy the bridges, which is really a simple matter of getting to them and planting the C4 on them. Now, just because this is the level that we're stopping the reinforcements from coming, it doesn't mean that the helicopters won't also be in this level if you haven't taken them out. And you can actually see here whenever I look back at the bridge that the helicopter is there, and so if I wanted to I could have taken out the helicopter first, but it lets you choose which way you want to do it. And by the way, if you're playing this, it might be cool to look back at the explosion, but when you're running around on train tracks, it's usually a good idea to look in front of you. So that's the reinforcements taken care of. The next level is about taking out the chopper, and you can see I've already built up a team of 3 people after doing the previous level. The chopper's actually pretty easy to find in this level. It's right at the start. Again, it's about flanking, it's about getting in behind a little office building, planting C4 on it and running away. But I actually did find this level to complete pretty difficult. The chopper's quite easy, but there's lots of bottlenecks in the level that really force you to take on the enemy head on, and this is where you really need to send your squad in and just try your best to flank them. Yeah, I actually died a lot playing this level, and just to show you an example, if you try and this is right at the start of the level, if I was to just try and take the enemy on head on, because they're on their little pillboxes and they're 50 cal shooting at me, they've got all these turrets and stuff, it's just pretty much instant death. They've got the upper hand, so really it's all about, again, flanking in round behind them. And in some cases it's just a matter of sending your squad one way while you go the other way and just take them out from the side. Once you've taken out the helicopter and the reinforcements, storming the hotel really isn't anywhere near as much of a problem, and you'll have your 3 squad mates to help you. The game purposely just doesn't give you enough for 4 members, but once you complete this level you'll now be able to recruit 4 squad members. So like I said, the next part is much the same template. We have 3 choices of levels, one with bridges to blow up and one with a helicopter to blow up. The first level starts up and the atmosphere is already much more gloomy. Feels like you're kind of hiding from the enemy a lot more. They've got spotlights looking for you, and there is just some really nice gothic parts to this level. You can see down in this alleyway that there's the movie, I think that's actually a movie, that's a church all lit up. But there's just a feeling that the Soviets have a much better hold on the city at this point, and that I think there's almost no civilians walking around at this stage. We have some cool little interior fights that happens, like you've seen in the hotel earlier, and this is like a movie theatre. It's a pretty cool little fight. It's just nice to see a change from not being outdoors all the time, and the inside fights can be just as much fun really. if not more fun than the running around the streets. There are 2 bridges we have to blow up this time round, and something really cool happened, and it was a complete fluke, one-off. I couldn't do it again if I tried, but I timed it perfectly that whenever I set my C4, it just so happened that the minute my C4 went off, one of the trucks that drives around drove right over the path of it. I don't think the game knew what to do, so it just kind of disappeared. Again, it's not something that was supposed to happen, it's just a bit of a fluke. I really like this train track part in this level where you use it to flank up around the back of the enemies and just kind of, you can throw grenades down at them and you just run along the tracks to get into this little apartment building and stuff. Each of the levels feel really unique and there's usually something slightly different about each of them, so it keeps you entertained. So the last level in this area is pretty much more of the same but on a bigger scale. We now have 6 people under our control and it's a seriously effective team. You can basically just send them all right ahead and just let them take most of the enemies out. This was quite a nice little part here where we were flanking around. There were 3 turrets pointing at the front doors, so obviously just walking around that corner would be a big mistake. So you can just flank in round, send all your guys up and then do a little bit of sniping. You can just see the scale that whenever there's 6 of your teammates that they all kind of take control of an area and really help you out. There was a new gun introduced in this part and one of the enemies had this missile launcher. It actually killed me before it, but I picked it up just to try it out and it's seriously fun to use and it just uses the ragdoll to great effect. I certainly forgot how good it was, but it allowed me to get access to this base really easily, just taking out all their defences with a few well placed missiles. And then again in the main power plant I was able to use my missile to take out a turret that was quite some distance away. So now that the game has built you up to a good standard and you hoist your flag in the power plant, it goes ahead and takes this all away from you. Now we see a seriously different Chris compared to the plumber we seen at the very start of the game. He now has this cool torn American flag on his leg to patch up his clothes. Our base is now filled with tents and well supplied. But our next mission is a solo mission and you can really see the Hitman influence here. This level reminds me a lot of Hitman. There's basically one objective, you have one target to take out and the game really just leaves it up to you to decide whatever way you want to do that. You can try and do it silently with your sniper rifle, or you could really try and go in guns blazing, but this would be a really difficult option. It's a big change of pace being on your own and it almost feels like it's out of place, but at the same time I know why they did it. This level's put here just to remind you that how reliant you become on your squad and how playing on your own's so much more difficult. But I love it whenever games do this. Lure you into a comfort zone and then take it all away from you and make you start from scratch. It makes the game challenging. Not enough games do that. Too many games pander to the player because they're too scared of creating something challenging in case it gets a bad review from some IGN reviewer that walks through the game on the easiest setting just to finish the game to meet a deadline. Immediately after this level there's a plot twist which I don't want to spoil. It isn't my intention with my relive videos to relive the entire game, just to get a good snapshot of what the game feels like, and I feel like at this point I have. Not only that, but if I go any further it might ruin the experience for anyone who's thinking of picking this game up, which I would highly recommend. This is a game that I always meant to come back and play, and I sort of always knew that it would be good, but I didn't realise just how well it would have held up. There are very few games from this era that I would class as timeless. Metal Gear Solid 2 is one that comes to mind, but I think it's probably something to do with the strategic elements in Freedom Fighters that will make it a game that will always be good to come back to. No matter how bad the graphics age, good gameplay will be timeless. The previous video in my Let's Relive series was the Nintendo 64 cult classic Body Harvest. This is from the makers of Grand Theft Auto, so if you ever wondered what Nintendo 64 Grand Theft Auto would be like, then check out my previous video by clicking on the little TV screen. I want to say a huge thank you to everyone that supported me on Patreon. The idea for this series came shortly after I set up my Patreon page, and I probably wouldn't have thought about doing this if it wasn't for that. And the support I get from there is helping me buy new games and equipment for the series, and I really hope to keep this series going because I've got a lot of ideas for it. So if you'd like to check out my Patreon page and maybe even support me, you can just click on the little P button. Thanks for checking out this video. I'd love to know what you thought about it in the comments, or maybe tell me what your experience with Freedom Fighters was.